out to the ends of the earth. That was the mission of Israel, which was the Old Testament church. That was the mission of Judah, which was the Old Testament church. Well, the whole mission of the Old Testament church seems like it came down to these four young men: Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Everybody else had forsaken God. Everybody else had become unfaithful. And so they would be what I would call the righteous remnant. But they weren't conceited about it, okay? Another thing about their faith is that they understood, their understanding of God was not shaped by their circumstances. There's a lot of people that I talk to, they say, well, if God is so good, then why did I go through this? Or why did my father die? Or that kind of thing. And their understanding of God is shaped by their circumstances. But our understanding of God should not be shaped by our circumstances. Our understanding of God should be shaped by God's Word. And if I belong to God, yes, I will have good and bad circumstances. And why am I going to have bad circumstances? Because I live in a world that is sinful and fallen. And I am sinful and fallen. You see? And bad things happen. You know, sometimes people say, well, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, okay, I understand the spirit behind that. But if you really look at it technically, there's no such thing as good people. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Okay, but let's go back to that and say, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, it's because the world is sinful and fallen. And some circumstances are bad. But the difference is that if I belong to God in Jesus Christ, then all circumstances that I go through are going to be redeemed. And one day, I'm going to look back on it and say, I'm glad that happened. Well, look at Job, for example. I'm sure Job was not very happy when he went through all of that. But at the end of the story, not only does he get back twice what he had before, but he understood, I think. I think God showed him that his story is going to be a great encouragement to the people of God. And so this is what these young men are showing, that kind of faith. They knew their understanding of God was not shaped by their circumstances. Their understanding of God was shaped by what God said. And so that's the nature of their faith. It's really amazing how they were, how mature they were in their faith. They understood that God was all-powerful, that God is not limited by anything outside of himself. God is not limited by anything outside of himself. He is, in Genesis 18:4, and God said, don't worry, I got this. Jeremiah said, yeah, but God says, I am the God of all mankind, right? There's nothing that's greater than God. He is all-powerful. He is all-powerful. They understood that God is everywhere present at all times. God is not trapped in time like we are. Think of this. If I draw a line on this table from there to there, okay, let's say I draw a line. I wish I had a chalkboard or something. If I draw a line, I see the whole line, don't I? For God, he sees all of time like that. He sees the whole thing from beginning to end. He is, what does the Bible say in Revelation? He is what? Alpha and Omega. He's the beginning and the end. He's there. He's got the whole thing. Now we're trapped in one moment at a time, right? Right? You know, I can't go forward or backwards. I'm just trapped in one moment. God sees all moments. And so when God makes a promise, God says, I will do thus and so. He's already done it in eternity. That's why God's promises never fail. He's not going to promise something that he hasn't already done. But we're in time, we're trapped in time, we only see the promise later on. So, this is the kind of faith that these young men had. They understood that God was not limited by time like we are. All right. He's everywhere present at all times. So their understanding of God was not tainted by their worldly understanding, by their circumstances and all. Now, okay, that's these guys, the Fab Four. These guys really had it together. They had it going on, as we would say. So what about all those other nobles? What about all those other nobles that were taken? Well, the question is, the issue is, they were probably sincere in their desire to keep the faith. Okay? They were probably sincere in their desire to keep the faith. But here's the problem. Their faith was based on some faulty theology. You can have all the faith you want to, but if the theology that you have is bad, your faith is going to be in vain. It's like I can have all the faith I want to, that I can fly. You know, watch me fly now. I'm going to flap my arms. I have faith, right? I can have sincere faith, but I'm not going to be able to fly. I don't care how much I believe. Is that right? Okay. And I believe I can fly, you know. That doesn't mean a thing. God is in this temple, and he's nowhere else. Got it? That was their problem. They didn't see that God was everywhere. So therefore, if God was confined to the temple, then to be away from the temple is to be away from God. So here they are in Babylon, the University of Babylon, and God is not with them. So they thought. Because why? God is trapped in the temple. And not only that, but the temple is about to be destroyed. So when the temple was plundered, they felt that God himself was incapacitated. And so they were disconnected from their theological roots and were set adrift to go along with what was happening in Babylon. Their faith was sincere, but it was based on some faulty theology.